either what I will present is useful, or maybe it is totally useless. I don't know. You can tell me at the end. So let's start with the motivation. So in ecology, there are many papers devoted to this absence-presence problem. So typically, we look at some binary vectors, and we record if a given species is present or absent at a given location. So the main question is, there are some works, but not in the time series context. And one question is how to model this presence-absence data across the time, and to identify some patterns. For instance, the attraction of between some species, the influence of the environment, the time dependencies, all this kind of stuff. So in the discrete time series analysis, in the discrete time series literature, this kind of problem is not very well documented. There are not a lot of examples of models. And especially if we target complex modeling. For instance, I will describe an autoregressive process that can contain exogenous regressors, and also try to take in account of some surveys. That is, we want to work in a longitudinal way with several time series recorded at different locations. So one motivation, specific motivation, is a paper that I found in the literature. So it's a paper published in the Proceedings of the Royal Statistical Society. It's a problem of waterbird survey. So presence of absence data for these waterbirds. There are 7 waterbirds in this paper, and at each irrigation point, we have some absence-presence data. And this absence-presence data were recorded during several years, during the same months. What was interesting is that they tried to combine several types of information. So the problem of covariates. So in this example, there are some fixed environmental and spatial covariates. For instance, you have some indication about the ponds, the presence or absence of other species, the problem of vegetation. They try also to include some absence-presence data of some species, but at the previous time. And you have many types of covariates. Some of them are time varying. That related to the pond characteristic, for instance, and some of them are non-time varying, and some of them are time varying if you consider the absence-presence of other species in the system. And all these covariates seem to have an impact on the dynamic. So the motivation here was to find a kind of time series formulation that can be compatible with this kind of problem, and for which we can obtain some statistical guarantees for estimating the parameters. Okay, so these are some questions related to this modeling, and I will try to use a general idea. In fact, this idea has been used in the paper that I mentioned, but the main point is to get some feasible estimation condition and guarantees also. So it uses a general idea in econometrics. If you consider a categorical outcome, it is often seen as a kind of discretization of a continuous outcome. That is the discretization of a continuous response. So here, YT, there are k spaces in the system. So YT take value in 0, 1 power k. And we assume that YIT, that is the species I, is present in at time t, if and only if a function of the available covariates at time t plus a random noise is sufficiently large. So here you can always, without loss of generality, assume that it is positive or not. Otherwise, you can add an intercept here. And okay, so xt denotes a vector of what we call exogenous covariates. That is, it will be not necessary to define the distribution of such covariates. And epsilon t is what we call a noise component. So there are some simple choice for G, for the link function G. So one of them is the linear function. So you take an affine function, in fact, of the covariates. So this we can take more complicated function, but I will limit the study here to this kind of function. Okay, so typically on these models, one could work without specifying the probability distribution of the noise, but it's more complicated. It's a problem related to non-parametric or semi-parametric estimation. So here I will take a more simple case in which epsilon t, we know the multivariate probability distribution. Typically, we fix the margin. So there are two main models that are used in the literature. So the first one is called the multivariate probit model. So in this case, we assume that the noise disturbance is a Gaussian vector with mean 0 and the correlation matrix that is written R. And this is a classical model used in econometrics. There is also another variant. It was in fact the variant that was used in the paper that I showed you at the beginning of the talk. Here we fix the margin to have a logistic distribution. So here you take a Gaussian random vector V. You apply the cumulative distribution of the standard Gaussian. Then each marginal will be uniformly distributed, and then you take the inverse of the CDF of the logistic. So in this case, marginally, the model works as a logistic regression. While in the multivariate probit model, marginally, that is the distribution of y, I, t, conditionally on the past and on the covariates, is a probit regression. So these are two variants of the model. So what we want to do here, we want to define a dynamic version of such models. We investigate a frequentist approach for parameters inference. I will try to discuss something which is numerically feasible because there are some important computational issues. What I will try to do is to at least to study the problem under the stationarity assumption. So in some sense, if we work with in time series data, stationarity has some limitation. But at least if you are only interested in deriving short-term interaction between the covariates and the response, and between lag values of the absence-presence data to the actual vector of absence-presence data, you can get some insight about this. The other point is to try to adapt this, what I will call the single pass framework. That is, I only work with one time series. So this will be the first part of this talk. And I will try to adapt it in a longitudinal approach in which we have many time series recorded at different locations. And I will mainly focus on the multivariate probit, but one can get exactly the same results for the multivariate logistic models. It is not an issue. Okay. So I will start with a single pass analysis, how to define such model in a dynamic way, and how to deal with the existence of stationary paths. So the model writes as follows. So the species I is present at time t if a linear combination of some covariate x and of some path values of the response is positive up to a noise component. This noise component will follow a Gaussian distribution with mean 0 and covariance matrix R. And now all the coefficients that we have to estimate are given by the intercept function, the intercept parameters, and all the matrices involving in the autoregression. So to work with the stationary solution, it's important to say that we have to work with a stationary process for the x and the epsilon. And we will work with a specific notion of exogeneity, which is epsilon t is independent from the path value of the noise. That is, the epsilon t will be IID, in fact. And also epsilon t will be independent from the actual value and the past value of the covariates. So this kind of exogeneity is called predeterminedness in econometric literature. So it's a bit less restrictive than to assume that we have a complete independence between the noise component and the covariates. So actually, it is important to take this point because if I put in the X, if I put some presence absence data for other spaces, what will happen on the Y process at time t will have an influence maybe on the presence of absence of presence value of this covariate in the future. So it's quite limiting to assume that we have a complete independence. So this is why I work with this more flexible assumption. So the other point is that I will define some stationary type properties without necessarily assuming that the process xt is ergodic. For instance, for longitudinal analysis, the covariates, the exogenous covariates can be decomposed as a fixed part and the time varying part, as in the example that I showed you before. What is interesting with this quite maybe naive but very simple model is that one can interpret the results quite easily. For instance, if you look at the sign of the coefficients in the matrix Aj, so if you look at the entry I prime, it indicates if the presence of the species I prime in the past has a positive or negative influence on the presence of the species I at time t. The same interpretation holds true for the signs of the entries of the B matrix, positive or negative contribution of the exogenous covariates. And we have also this nice interpretation for the correlation matrix of the noise component. Typically, the entries I prime indicates that we have a positive, depending on the sign, or negative association between the presence of species I and I prime at the same time t. For instance, we can use this lemma, the Slepian lemma, sorry, which guarantees that the multivariate CDF of the Gaussian is increasing with respect to the correlation coefficient. So here it translates as follows: automatically, the covariance, the conditional covariance between the absence presence of the species at time t is increasing with this increase, and it also has the same sign. So in fact, the sign in the correlation matrix determines the sign of the conditional covariances. So to study if there is a stationary solution to this autoregressive process, it's not completely automatic. If I don't put covariates in the system, we obtain, that is, you don't put X, or you assume that the matrix B is equal to 0. You recover an irreducible finite state Markov chain. So if I assume that the noise epsilon is Gaussian here, so it's straightforward to show that we have an irreducible finite state Markov chain, and then there exists a unique invariant probability measure. There is no other condition on the coefficient. Now, if I put some covariates, this is no more a Markov chain. So if I would have assumed that X is independent of epsilon, that is both processes are independent, it will be a Markov chain in random environment. But if I assume only the predeterminedness assumption, we have no Markov structure. So to define stationary solution, I will work with another approach, which is called the random mapping approach. So let's take the case P is equal to 1. So we put only one lag in the autoregressive model. So one can always find, we have some indicators, but the YT, right, has a nonlinear function of YT minus 1, and with a random function that depend on the covariates and on the noise component. And the standard way for deriving a stationary solution is to study the limits, the almost sure limits of the backward iteration of the random map. That is at time t minus s, I initialize the system with a deterministic value, y. And I look at the iteration until time t. And I try to study the limit of this iteration when s goes to infinity. That is when the initial time, t minus s, goes to minus infinity. And our aim here is to show that this Almosher limit always exists and does not depend on the initialization point y. So I will explain through a most simpler example that it is natural to proceed like this. So if you know a bit the literature of discrete time series analysis, I will take the simple case of a linear autoregressive model. So here it's no more related to the model that I present, but you will understand why we are looking at this backward iteration. So typically, if the model writes like this, we have this kind of random iteration with a function f, which is linear in xt and epsilon t. Now you can compute explicitly the backward iteration. And if you assume that the spectral radius of the matrix A is less than 1, under some weak moment condition, it is only necessary to assume that x and epsilon have a logarithmic moment. One can show that we have this Almosher convergence towards of a quantity which does not depend on the initialization value y. And this is a classical infinite moving average expansion of a linear autoregressive process of order 1. So here we will try to do the same. But the main difference is that the mapping is not linear. And we have a special structure because the number of value for the process is finite. But we can still get the following result. So if the noise is as a Gaussian distribution, and if the covariates are predetermined in the system, and assuming that we have a stationarity property, one can show that there exists a unique stationary solution. And the first point is that this solution writes as an infinite expansion of present and past value of the noise component and of the exogenous covariates. The other point is that ergodicity holds true for the Y process as soon as the process xt epsilon t is itself ergodic. So here to study this convergence, I will give a proof by only using a graph because it's very easy to explain why we obtain this result. I suppose that everybody knows what convergence means when the number of value is discrete. It means that at some point the iteration will be constant. Okay, so the proof works as follows. So I will just give the proof when there is only one lag and when the covariate process is ergodic, but the idea is similar in the general case. So we first introduce some specific events. Let's denote by CT the intersection of all these events, where H is simply given by the minimal value that can take the autoregressive part plus the intercept part. So if the event CT occurs, what will happen is the following. You are sure that all the next value for the Y process will be equal to 1. Okay, this is given by the equation that defines the model. So from stationarity, the probability of CT is equal to the probability of C0. And since the noise is Gaussian and has full support, this probability is always positive. And if we use the ergodicity assumption, we define the random time t, which is the first time such in the past before time t, such that this event occurs. So the first time for which you will obtain 1 for all the coordinates, whatever the past values. So here is an example of this situation. So this random time t is finite almost surely. So on this plot, t is equal to 2. Okay, and what will happen if you initialize before time t-3, you will see all the paths that will coalesce through the state 1, 1. So it's here, it's an example with 2 spaces, okay? And whatever the previous value, the next value will be equal to 1, 1. And here, you can stop the backward iteration because it has converged, okay? So this is a standard way to define a solution for this discrete value process. And if you know some simulation procedure for Markov chain, it is totally similar of what is called the Prop and Wilson perfect simulation algorithm for perfectly sampling from the unique invariant probability measure. But here it's not a Markov chain, but the idea is the same. So this is the idea of the proof to define this solution written as an infinite expansion of path value of the noise and of the covariate process. So now the important point is inference of parameters. So here one can try to write the likelihood or the conditional likelihood. That is, we look at the probability of getting a given 0, 1 vector S conditionally on the available information at time t. This writes as follows. And using the expression of the Gaussian density, you have this expression in terms of multiple integrals that are computed over rectangles. And you can derive the expression of the log likelihood function, which is simply given by the sum of between t for t smaller than capital T of this logarithm of these multiple integrals. So what is difficult here is that numerically this requires some care, because if k is large, for instance, if you take 10 or 20 spaces, it's really difficult to compute numerically the likelihood. So actually, there exists some techniques to compute it. There are some preference sampling techniques. There are some variational inference techniques, but I will not consider it. I will try to define another type of estimation method. So the alternative that I studied is the following. I will first consider the estimation of the dynamic parameter, that is the estimation of D, the matrices A and the matrix B. And to this end, I will ignore the presence of the correlation matrix of the noise component. I will proceed as if this correlation matrix R was equal to identity. So in this case, we assume that the component of the epsilon are independent and Gaussian. So if it is true, if these components are independent, it will be the conditional likelihood. But if they are not, it is no more the likelihood. So this is why it is called a pseudo likelihood approach, because it is only the likelihood for a specific situation. But anyway, since conditionally on the path value yit is given by the equation of a probit model, this gives an M estimator, that is a maximum of contrast estimation. And we can still show consistency property. So what is interesting is that if we want to estimate the entries of all the matrices, the maximization can be obtained equation by equation, because in fact, the parameters that are involved in the coordinate I contain only the rows of the matrix A and the matrix B. So you can proceed with the maximization row by row, in fact. So this is why it's interesting. It's quite easy to implement it. So the next step is to estimate this correlation matrix. So what I do, I will plug the parameters in the value of the parameters for the dynamic parameters that I obtained previously. And instead of looking at the full likelihood, I will look at something which is called the pairwise likelihood. That is, if I take the distribution of yit and yi prime t conditionally on the past, it is still given by this double integral of a Gaussian distribution. But now the Gaussian distribution has only two coordinates. And you can look using the CDF of the standard Gaussian, you can go back to only one integral. So numerically, we estimate all the coefficients of the R matrix one by one, and it involves only the numerical evaluation of one integral. Okay, so this is quite easy to implement. So this is kind of method is related to what is called composite likelihood. That is, you don't take the likelihood, but you take the likelihood for some pairs of coordinates, for instance. So this is why it is called pairwise composite likelihood method here. So let me give some result about the asymptotics, about the estimation. So if we assume that we have the parameters, that is the time parameters theta and the R matrix are in a compact set. So for consistency, we only need a square moment for the covariates, and we need some identifiability constraint for the covariates that I will not give, but it's not very costly. We have a strong consistency, and the dynamic parameter theta, one can estimate it at the rate root t, and the limiting distribution is a Gaussian distribution with mean zero and some asymptotic variance that it is possible to estimate. It's more difficult to obtain asymptotic normality of the R matrix, of the estimation of the R matrix. Here, to study the convergence, to study the integrability of the derivative of the log likelihood, we need a more stringent assumption. So actually, maybe it's possible to relax it, but I don't know how for the moment. Typically, we assume that a square has an exponential moment, but yeah, this moment can be very small. So you can include some Gaussian covariate, for instance, it will work, but for the asymptotic normalities, there is no guarantee that you can put fat tail covariate, for instance. So this is one of the limitations. Okay, so these are some results if we have only one time series under study. So now I will give some elements for a multiple path analysis that is compatible with the longitudinal approach. So here I take the case of surveys. So we have different observation sites. The index is now J for the observation site. And I is still the species number, and T, of course, is still the time. At each observation site J, we have exactly the same model. The model is quite simplistic. Actually, it was a model that was used in the papers that I introduced in the beginning of the talk. There is no heterogeneity or individual effect. I will describe this extension later because it is much more realistic. What we want to get here is an asymptotic for parameters by using this situation, by investigating these asymptotics, both the number of sites and the number of time points grows to infinity. But not necessarily, T is not necessarily a function of the number of observation sites. And I will give some result for two scenarios. So in scenario one, I assume that I have non-time varying covariates and time varying covariates that can depend on the observation site. In this case, I will not assume that there is a spatial dependence, which is one of the limitations, but for which it's quite easier to obtain some asymptotic results. And we assume that all the quantities are independent, except that for the time varying covariates, we can include an ergodic process. So we can still have some dependence across the time, but otherwise all is independent. In the second scenario, I assume that there is another structure, that is, I have fixed covariate, not depending on the time, and I have something which is called common factors, in the sense that I have the same covariates for all the observation sites at the same time. For instance, some macro variables related to climate. In this case, I assume that the three processes are independent, and the Z process, the Z variable are IID, and the dependency comes from the W process, which is assumed to be an ergodic process. So here we can proceed exactly as is in the case of the single pass analysis by using the law of large numbers for random fields. So here we have a double index. J is the number of the site, and T the time index. So under some integrability condition, when both quantities goes to infinity, when we have some variables that are function of the noise process and of the covariate process, there is a law of large numbers which applies as soon as we have an ergodic notion for random fields. So in fact, here we have a random field, that is some random variables that are indexed by two quantities, two indices, and we have two actions on this sequence. We have a shift over the J index, and we have also a shift with respect to the time index. If we consider the first scenario, one can show that the first transformation, that is a shift over the index J, is ergodic. This is not surprising because we have an IID assumption across the J. In the second scenario, none of the transformations theta 1 or theta 2 are ergodic because you have a repetition of the covariates, the same covariates across the time or the same covariates across the different sites. However, if you compute the intersection between the two invariant sigma fields, it is trivial. And then here, in the ergodic theorem, usually we have a conditional expectation here in the Birkhoff ergodic theorem. And when the intersection of the two sigma fields are trivial, the conditional expectation become an expectation. So here we can get some consistency result simply from this law of large number for random fields. And the proof is actually exactly the same as for the single pass analysis. Okay, so it is also possible to get the same result of asymptotic normalities. So this is guaranteed by the various independence properties that we made. Actually, we have some general result for martingale differences, but with two indices, there is a general result of Volney, for instance, which apply to both scenarios. So the other point is that we can, of course, get the same kind of result if the number of observation sites goes to infinity and the time index is fixed. In fact, it is even simpler. So I did not provide the result because the most challenging problem was when both quantity goes to infinity at the same time. So the main point is that in my study, I did not assume some spatial correlation. So this is an important limitation. The assumptions are very simplistic. For instance, if we assume some spatial correlation, for instance, across the noise components, this will modify all the limiting variants that I find in this study. And if you consider the problem of testing significance of parameters in the model, in fact, the test will change because they will depend on the asymptotic variance of the estimator. And then we cannot avoid the wrong conclusion. So it will be more realistic to generalize this when there is also some spatial correlation, a point that I did not consider here. Now I will give some some perspectives, because this is the first part for this work, and I have also some other part in progress, and it is related to some problems that are widely studied in econometrics, and a more interesting models can be the following. So we still have this formulation for the absence-presence data. So in the longitudinal approach, okay, the regression function depends on a linear combination of the past values of the absence-presence data and also of some linear combination of some covariates. But we can also include some dependencies with respect to J and with respect to T through some random part that will be unobserved. And I think this is interesting. This is called heterogeneity problem in the literature of panel data in econometrics. For instance, in DJ, you can include some unobservable random quantities that represent the Pond's characteristics, for instance. When we try to include some characteristics in the model, of course, it is not possible to include all the information of the Pond. Then here you can consider that this unobserved part of the Pond characteristics is included in this random part, DJ. And the same problem holds if you want to put some common covariates for all the Pond at the same time, but it is still unobserved. Now the problem is much more difficult. The model is now semi-parametric because typically we do not specify the distribution of the random intercept and the distribution of the common factor gamma. And then all these quantities here, the D values and the gamma values, correspond to what we call nuisance parameter. That is, we are not interested in estimating this quantity. We are simply interested in estimating these matrices A and B to measure the effect of the covariates or of lag values of the response. Actually, in the state of the art of the econometrics literature, there exists a way to get some consistent estimation for the parameter theta here, at least if the time points and the number of observation sites are proportional. If it is not the case, if T is not large with respect to N, we could have some bias problem in the estimation. But if they are proportional, it's possible to get some interesting results. The other extension which could be interesting is, of course, to take in account of some spatial correlation between the noise component, especially if the distance between the points is not very far. If you make some surveys in this way with quite close points, this kind of correlation could be meaningful, and it was not taken in account in the results that I gave here. Okay, so let's finish the talk by giving some conclusion. It is still possible to develop such time series analog of multivariate binary models, and to take in account of both endogenous and exogenous regressor. The second point is that numerically we can estimate the parameter consistently, which a procedure which is still feasible, even if the number of species can be large. So actually, I did not investigate the numerical aspect here and the behavior on real data for the moment. One can still obtain some result when we have a longitudinal approach. But of course, we have to study the finite sample accuracy of this method. And what could be interesting is to investigate the second model, the semi-parametric model that I described here. I think it's possible to adapt the result, at least if you have sufficiently, if the length of the time series is sufficiently large. And this requires additional work. Not so easy, maybe, but I think it's possible to extend it. But this asks the question of long time series that are recorded in many papers that I saw in ecology. Typically, the surveys concern a large number of observation sites, but the number of time points for which we have an observation is limited. So this can be a limitation to adapt this more realistic approach. Okay, so I have finished the talk. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Lionel.
Thank you, Lionel. I see there are some hands already. Pablo Marquet and Milan.
Hey, thank you. Thank you, Lionel. Nice talk. A very important topic for ecologists, actually. And there's a long-standing and related problem, and I will like to hear your comments on it, which is for a long time, ecologists back in the 70s, actually, they started, and I'm an ecologist, so I'm a practicing one. But so what we started doing is to go in places and record presence absence of things. And as you mentioned, we use explanatory variables and use all these logistics and Probit models and so on. But also an important part of the environment is the presence of or absence of other species.
Yeah.
So then you have a 0, 1 variable here, which actually is going to be predicted by the presence and absence of other species, plus some explanatory variables, as you mentioned. So that could be an hybrid model. And why this is important, because using that approach, what we do is to actually infer interactions. You know, if two things tend to coexist, or 1, 1 tends to, you tend to be present when someone else is present, then you say, oh, there is a positive interaction, or if you have a 1, 0, you have a negative interaction, or things like that. So you can try to actually, you can infer an adjacency matrix from that, and then do a graph and do all this fancy stuff. So, and what we have seen is that a lot of it could, a lot of the coexistence is between the species is because they are following the same environment.
Okay.
Not necessarily that they interact in a positive way, so they are just tracking the same environment, so they follow the environment. So do you think that your approach could be extended to include also the presence and absence of other species in order to infer how likely it will be that you find a species present in a particular community? That's one question. And the other, just a comment, there are some databases, and I can point some of them to you on I mean, 60 or 70 years of data over 3,000 sites.
This will be perfect.
Yeah, and that is a couple of those atlases. Is people doing the same sample every single year? It's not the same people, because some of them died and new recruits come in, and they look at birds, in a 2.5 kilometer thing in the United States and also in Europe. So there is a lot of those. So it would be,
Okay,
thank
thank you for your second comment. So we can exchange after, because I had some difficulties to find some data for which you don't have more than 6 or 7 time points. So of course, if we make an asymptotic boss in the number of points and the number of time points, it's not realistic. So it could be more interesting, and I'm really pleased that you mentioned that it is possible. For the other point, I think that it is possible to include some. This was, in fact, the one of the aim of the paper that is written here, that is mentioned here. Typically, they put some absence present data of other species at time t. But I think that we have to take care of the potential androgeneity problem, because typically, if we put this kind of quantity, what will, so do you see my screen here or not?
Yes,
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 yes.
Yeah, okay, it's perfect. So if you take this kind of information, we can have the following situation. The XT will influence, so these covariates will influence the YT, but the YT will influence at the same time the covariates. And here, what could be difficult is that it will be difficult to assume that epsilon t is independent from xt, because what we want here, we simply want to say that okay, xt have an influence, but after it determines yt, and I don't care of what yt give as an influence to the other species. So maybe if I want to be correct, I will put not the variable at time t, but at time t minus 1. That is the absence presence of other species at a previous time. So here the predeterminedness make more sense, but working with exactly the same covariates, I am not sure that there is no endogeneity problem. And it was not considered in the paper that I mentioned, but I suspect that we have this problem. So maybe lag values of other species, but I am not convinced that it would be necessary to define the model in another way to avoid this endogeneity problem.
Mhm.
I don't know if it gives an answer to your question.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Lionel.
Milan?
Lionel, thank you for a very interesting talk. You are in France, I guess, now.
Yeah.
Well, I have been having a project from the city in Chile. We have been observing the South American sea lions, and we can see the data up to maybe 20 in the colony. And there is a lot of missing, I think, at a purpose because the animals didn't want to show up. So can you say whether do you have also results which are small sample results like asymptotical, like or like in the Ronchetti style, like this kind of middle sample results?
So what you mean when t is fixed? You mean the time index is fixed or doesn't go to infinity? Or
Yes.
yeah. So if we want to get accurate results, we have to assume that something goes to infinity. So if the horizon time t does not go to infinity, the number of observation sites, that is the number of points in the example, should go to infinity. But what is so we will obtain a consistent estimation for all these parameters. But now, if you take the more general models that I did not study, in fact, which could be an interesting extension, if we assume that there is some kind of heterogeneity, both in the number of sites and for the time, with unobserved quantity. So here, for this semi-parametric model, you have no other choice than that t goes to infinity. Otherwise, the estimation can be consistent. So it has been shown in some econometrics paper. If t is fixed and n goes to infinity, I think we have to specify the distribution of dj and gamma t. Okay, we have to specify the probability distribution to go back to a kind of parametric problem. Yeah. So
very interesting. This is very interesting. Did you publish this? I can find it on your website.
No, unfortunately.
I understand. It will come.
Yeah. Because in fact, so even in the single pass analysis, the result is new.
I understand.
So, yeah, so I hesitated to first write a paper about the single pass analysis because this binary multivariate binary time series is new, even if in the time in the single pass analysis, and it is also useful for other application in economics. So maybe I will separate the works in two parts with the single pass analysis with some numerical issues, and after in the second step for the longitudinal data. So unfortunately, my answer is negative for the moment. I don't have a preprint for you. Sorry for this.
Thank you. Very interesting. It gives a reason that it looks like that. Thank you.
Thank you.
So any other questions? No? Yeah.